Every place has a story. Some stories refuse to stay buried. There is a village on the northern bank of the Yangtze River, perched on a hill called Mingshan. Travel brochures will tell you it is a charming cultural site, a place of temples and ancient carvings. They will tell you it is the Ghost City. They will not tell you why it earned that name. They will not tell you what the locals whisper when the river fog rolls in and the lanterns refuse to stay lit. This is the story of Fengdu. For nearly 2,000 years, the village of Fengdu has been considered, in Chinese folk belief, the literal entrance to the underworld. Not a metaphor, not a poetic flourish. The actual gateway through which the souls of the dead must pass to be judged. The legend traces back to the Eastern Han Dynasty, when two officials, Yin Changsheng and Wang Fangping, came to Mingshan to practice Taoist alchemy. They sought immortality. According to the records, they found it. They ascended. And when their family names were combined, Yin Wang, they formed a phrase that means quite simply, King of Hell. From that moment on, Fengdu was no longer just a village. It was a threshold. There is a village in China where the dead are said to register before they are allowed to move on. It sits on a hill above the Yangtze, and for 2,000 years the people who live there have followed 3 rules. Do not look back when crossing the bridge of helplessness. Do not stand on one foot when passing the ghost-torturing pass, and never, under any circumstances, drop the stone you are given at the gate. Because if you fail any of these tests, the legend says you are not leaving Fengdu. Not really. Your body might walk out, but something else stays behind to take your place. Shorts. Start 1. The temple complex that grew on Mingshan over the centuries is not like other temples in China. The Buddhist and Taoist shrines elsewhere are built to honor gods, to invite blessings. Fengdu was built to process the dead. There are statues here that have no equivalent anywhere else in the country. Demons with the heads of oxen. Judges with faces carved into expressions of grim, patient cruelty. A great hall depicting the 18 levels of hell, each one more specific than the last. The level for liars, where tongues are pulled out with hot iron. The level for those who cheated their parents, where the body is sawed in half lengthwise. The level for the unfaithful, which I will not describe in detail, because some images do not leave you once they enter. But these are only the carvings, the statues, the stories told to children to keep them honest. The real horror of Fengdu is what happened to the village itself. In the 1990s, the Chinese government began construction on the Three Gorges Dam, the largest hydroelectric project in human history. To complete it, the Yangtze had to be raised. Hundreds of towns and villages along the river would be submerged. Over 1 million people would be relocated, and the old village of Fengdu, the original settlement at the foot of Mingshan, the streets where families had lived for generations, the houses where grandfathers had died in their beds, that village was scheduled to drown. The relocation began in 2002. The residents were moved across the river to a newly constructed town. The old village was emptied. And then slowly, over the following years, the water rose. Houses disappeared 1 floor at a time. Roofs went under. Lantern posts vanished. The village did not collapse. It simply sank, intact, into the dark. The old village of Fengdu is still down there. Not ruined, not destroyed, submerged, intact. The streets are still streets. The houses still have their doors. Fishermen who work that stretch of the Yangtze say their sonar picks up shapes that move when nothing should be moving. They say if you cut your engine at the right hour, just before dawn, you can sometimes hear a sound coming up through the hull. Not water, not fish. A sound like a bell being struck very softly, very far below. The temple bell from the old village, the one that was supposed to ring whenever a soul arrived at the gate. Shorts start 2. The new town of Fengdu was supposed to be a fresh start. Modern apartments, clean streets, a break from the superstitions of the past. But the residents who were relocated did not adjust well. In the first years after the move, there were reports, quiet ones, the kind that never made it into official records, of unusual deaths. A man who had refused to take part in the traditional farewell ceremony for the old village hanged himself in his new kitchen within a week of moving in. An elderly woman who had lived in the same house in Old Fengdu for 60 years was found in her new apartment, sitting in a chair, eyes open, dead. The coroner could not determine a cause. Her neighbors said she had been complaining, in the days before, that she could hear her old front door opening and closing at night. The door that was now underwater. Then there were the children. In 2004, a teacher at a primary school in the new town reported that her students had begun drawing the same picture. Unprompted. A river. A village beneath the river, and in the windows of the submerged houses, faces. Always faces. The teacher collected the drawings and brought them to the principal. The principal, by his own account, looked through them once and then burned them. He would not say why. He retired the following year and moved away. He told no one where. The Ghost City Temple complex on top of Mingshan, of course, was preserved. It sits high enough on the mountain that the rising water never reached it. Today, tourists climb the long stone staircase, pass through the gate, and pose for photographs with the demon statues. Guides tell them the old stories with a wink. The bridge of helplessness. The mirror of retribution. The last glance at Home Tower, where, according to legend, the dead are permitted one final look back at the world of the living before they descend. The guides at Fengdu will tell you to climb the last glance at Home Tower. They will tell you to look out over the Yangtze and imagine, for a moment, what the dead saw on their final day. What they do not tell you is this. Several tourists over the years have reported the same thing. They climbed the tower. They looked out. And in the water below, in the spot where the old village now lies, they saw someone looking back, not a reflection. A face. Pale, calm, perfectly still beneath the surface. And when they looked again, it was gone. But the feeling stayed. The feeling that they had been seen, counted, remembered. Shorts, start 3. The local government does not discuss these accounts. There is no incentive to. Fengdu earns millions in tourism revenue every year, and the brand is built on a controlled, theatrical version of horror. The safe kind, the kind that ends when the bus leaves at 5 o'clock. But the people who actually live in the new town, the ones whose grandparents are buried in soil that is now 20 meters underwater, they do not visit the temple. They do not climb Mingshan unless they absolutely must. And every year, on the 15th night of the 7th lunar month, the Ghost Festival, they leave offerings at the edge of the river. Paper money. Rice wine. Small folded boats with candles inside. The boats drift out toward the middle of the Yangtze. Sometimes the current takes them downstream. Sometimes they spin in place for a while, as if caught on something. And sometimes, this is what the older residents will tell you if you ask them quietly, away from the tourist guides. Sometimes the candles go out one by one, in a perfect circle, as if someone beneath the water has reached up and pinched each flame between cold fingers. The village is still there. The dead never left. They simply moved one floor down. If you have ever felt watched while standing near deep water, or if there is a place in your own country that locals refuse to speak of after dark, leave A in the comments below. The Archivist reads them all. Some stories need to be heard before they can rest. Sleep well, if you can.